All right, so here we go. We are now on square number 4. And so what we're going to do for square number 4 is going to be kind of a little bit more of a choose your own adventure. So a couple things that I want to see that you do is that you're going to use a mask. You're going to need to use of some sort, one way or another, besides just this. I'm going to show you how to use text. And mess around with filters a little bit and a couple other things. But I want you to kind of mess around with this one. It's a little bit more of a choose your own adventure and kind of see what you can end up doing. Your image should still be, functional and visible and, so that way, and it should kind of fit in with the other ones too. So I'm going to start out with what I'm going to do. I'm just going to make a layer 1 and let's see. I'm just going to fill it in with a paint bucket in the background. I'm going to switch that to red instead. Let's throw that behind. And for this one, I'm going to add some text. And I'm actually going to show you a little more, kind of an advanced-ish thing with text a little bit too. So, a couple things. T for text. Boom, right there. Okay. So text works just like any other program. So we have I click, and then you see it has the type, the fonts type, all that kind of stuff up here. The style, size, sharp basically is like how sharp the edges are. Your colors, if you wanted to, if you want to warp the text there. What we got here? Toggle the characters. Yeah, and this is being like, yep. And then there is a 3D option for it too, which is a whole nother menu and a whole bunch of other stuff too. So I'm just gonna hit no for right now. So I'm just gonna basically just put Olive's name in here. O-L-I-V-E. You notice it didn't really show up either. Some of that's because it's red. All right, so let's switch this to yellow for right now. So, obviously I could just throw that in there. Remember, you can make copies of the same thing, make it over and over and over again, and that totally works too. Another possible way, so I'll show you a couple other things that are kind of neat or interesting, that kind of stuff with, that you can potentially do with text or actually with any kind of image whatsoever. So what I can do is I can take this, and if I hold down Command, you notice in my little layer, it turns into a selection. Okay, I can actually take that selection and I could, let's make a new color layer. Oop, sorry, wrong button. I can make a new color layer, and let's do it in white. Okay. So what we end up with is this, right? So what we actually see is just olive and white, but we can also go to that little mask layer and hit Command I, and let's bring that on top, right? So now what happens is that we actually are seeing the text through it, right? And so because it's just a mask, so we actually could put anything in there and do the same kind of thing. So it's kind of neat, something just to kind of mess around with, do something a little bit different. Yeah, so lots of different options. I'm going to show you, let's see. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go up to filters. So up in filters, there's a lot of, random different things you can do. Let's do I'll show you a couple different ones that I use a lot. So color halftone. I think it's kind of fun. So if I just hit OK, what'll happen, it'll turn it into almost like how a printer works. So let's go back, and I'll show you that again. It's under pixelate, color halftone, and then max radius. So that's actually the size of those dots. So if I did 4, you'll see that it's a lot smaller. And if I did bigger, it'd be, different. Another thing that I kind of mess around with sometimes is do this thing called threshold. And so what that does, it almost makes it like a stencil look to it. So if I do that, I can say, as I move this, the farther I go this way, there's more white. The farther I go this way, there's more dark. So if I hit OK, it'll actually, yeah, it's just like that. And so what I end up with is this. I can do some kind of neat stuff with this, kind of similar to like the actual Andy Warhol type pictures. If I make a selection like that and then make a new solid color layer, right, just like that, and if I put that below it, and I can change my, alright, I can change my blending modes, and you'll see it'll change how it interacts with that stuff below it, right? So once again, kind of just like a neat thing to kind of mess around with. Right, so you can see kind of how we would end up doing the more of like that actual Andy Warhol kind of look. So it's just kind of neat. Let's see some other mess around. Once again, like I'm essentially working non-destructively, right? So all of my stuff is still, you know, I'm still all good to go. Another thing that I think is kind of fun and interesting to mess around with sometimes is I'm actually going to make a copy of this. And I'm going to go to a blur. I usually use Gaussian blur because that's just me. Right, the higher I go, the blurrier it's going to get. So I'm actually going to kind of go with happy medium. Right, the thing that's kind of neat, once again, is that it is a mask, right? So what I can do is I can take my paintbrush and I can make sure opacity. I want a fuzzy brush. So check this out. So paint, what's happening is that it's making it look like some of these parts are actually clear, right? This is actually what your phone does, or the iPhones do when they do the portrait mode. Right, so if I actually look at my mask, I can actually hold down Alt, and this is what my mask looks like. So I can actually go in and kind of do it even more so in some of those spots. Right, so what's happening, right, I'm actually erasing this top part, and what's left is the picture behind it. Does that kind of make sense? So I don't know, it's kind of neat. Like I said, there's all kinds of different random stuff you can do. So on this one, like I said, I want you to, you know, kind of mess around, play around with some of these different things, whether it's filters, you can do distortions, like any of that kind of stuff. Make it your own. You know, like I said, kind of play around with it and, you know, see what you can kind of end up with. You know, sometimes just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Some of these things are super hokey. There's kind of neat ways you can use them, but so like I said, some of them are a little hokey sometimes. So let's see what happens with this one. Anyway, so play around, mess around, see what you can kind of come up with, and we'll go from there. Okay, and then in the next video, I'll show you how to put it all together. All right.